thought we could just start with, well, I saw you outside. You've seen this sometimes, I imagine, right? And this was my second time watching it. And it was cool to watch it with an audience. And where you started to feel like, that joy really come through was when JAMA Birth Center first came on the screen. You heard hand claps. Like people got really excited about that. So I wonder if we can start this conversation just with a little bit about JAMA Birth Center as maybe a model for what a birth experience could look like for a lot of us.
Yes, so Okunsola Amadou at the JAMA Birth Experience, she actually had her first pregnancy at the age of 13, and her second one at 17. She was homeless, and she, as you know, is brilliant. She was locked out of a system that really didn't cater to young black girls. She went to Africa, and she trained in Africa as a midwife, and she brought it back. And as you hear her say, she's the first black midwife in the state of Missouri. And she is one. I think there are 12 black birthing centers in the United States, just 12. And so she is a model of how we can use traditional methods from our ancestry, bring that here, and to be supported. So I was sharing earlier that I was in St. Louis 2 weeks ago at the beginning of Black Maternal Health Week, celebrating JAMA. There's a JAMA Birth Village Day where we celebrate JAMA, we celebrate Okunsola, and what we want is for more birthing centers, more spaces where women feel, comfortable. And to be clear, JAMA is for, low women who are not in danger of having babies. Right, so every woman is not going to be able to have a birth like at JAMA, but it is something that certainly, as we strive that every woman has a beautiful birth story, that we want to, increase those options for women, for that to be available to more women.
And Dr. Doshi Piper is with us. Dr. Doshi is the president of our top board. She's based out of San Antonio. Got any San Antonios in the house? Okay, I guess not. You got no woo-hoo here, but she is from Houston. I wonder if you can share with us a little bit about what your pregnancy journey has been and any kind of inspiration you took from the film.
Certainly. So I am a mother in this film. When I was 36 weeks, me and my husband, we went to a routine checkup, and my blood pressure was high, so my obstetrician said, I'm going to send you to the hospital. But let me back up and say, prior to when I became pregnant, when I found out I was pregnant, I was at the nail shop, and I was talking to my nail tech, and she referred me to my gynecologist. And, she had high-risk pregnancies. I was over 30, and just all of these other factors, right? So I went to her, and I had, checked out some people before them, but anyway, I settled on this one obstetrician, and it was a good journey. My entire pregnancy, I was sick. I had nausea, no vomiting, nonetheless, but I was never diagnosed with preeclampsia. So I go to my 36-week checkup, and my blood pressure's high, so she said, I'm going to send you to the hospital. So she sent me to the hospital. And this was like at 10 o'clock that morning. By 5 o'clock, she said, it's still up. We're going to take the baby. So they induced my pregnancy, had the baby. And 4 days later, my blood pressure was still up, but it had come down some. So, and I left out that my doctor delivered my baby on a Tuesday. On a Wednesday, she went on vacation. So she said this would be the attending doctor while I'm away. So they discharged me, and I had my baby at Houston Northwest Medical. I don't know if it's still called that. But I had my baby at Houston Northwest Medical, which is a doctor's owned hospital. So you have to, if they don't take your insurance, you have to pay to have your baby there. So I paid for my pregnancy and all of this other stuff. My delivery. So they got my pressure, and I don't remember the numbers, but I know it was still high. They discharged me, and they said, follow up with your obstetrician. So now I have to find a pediatrician for my baby and, follow up my obstetrician. So I'm discharged on a Friday. I had my baby on a Tuesday. I'm discharged on a Friday. The following Friday, I take my baby to her 1-week checkup. I go to my 1-week checkup to my doctor, and my blood pressure is still high. So she immediately gave me a prescription, and my husband was chauffeuring us around, taking us where we needed to go. So we put my prescription in Walgreens. I go home. He's on his way to Beaumont to take care of some stuff, but he got us straight first. And I take a nap, and while I was asleep, I had a stroke. I didn't know I had a stroke, but I had a stroke. But it's just me and my baby there. My sister had dropped my nephew off, and my baby's crying. He's trying to help me with my baby, but I can't move the right side of my body. But I'm telling you, maternal instincts, they kick in. So I took my shirt off with one hand. I breastfed my baby. She stopped crying, and I just went back to sleep. And by the time my husband got home, I was in a medical emergency. So he called the ambulance, and they came. And I don't know how they got their helicopter down on Tower Street and Acres Homes, but they did. They had to medevac me to the closest Memorial Hospital, which is in the Woodlands, and then they sent me to, the Methodist Hospital, which is in the Woodlands, and then they medevac me to the Methodist Medical Center because they have a good neurology department. And I mean, my brain was literally bleeding. They call it a venous bleed. And I had an excellent neurologist who really took care of me. And my obstetrician, she came to see me in the hospital. And my family, who's here today, my father's sisters, my 2 aunts, and my sister are here. So I'm discharged from the hospital, and they send me to rehab, and I stay there for a little while, and then I go home, and my family really did come around me and help me to take care of my baby, because now I have to relearn how to do the things that happened when I had my medical emergency. And it's just one of those things where, and I was talking to Monique earlier, we were on an interview, where I'm in my 30s, and I'm graduating from college with a PhD, and I'm about to start my career, and I'm married, and my life is starting. And I really did think that I did everything that I knew to do, and it still happened. And, people, that's medical neglect. They shouldn't have discharged you from the hospital with your blood pressure. But it's a doctor's own hospital, and they really can do what it is that was not my doctor. My doctor was on vacation, and so it was just a runaround. But I do believe that there's something to be said about quality of care. And there's something to be said about a warm handoff. And I do believe that the work that Texas Organizing Project does, organizing people, can ensure that we elect people who care about health care justice. And not those who are influenced by organized money and lean on insurance company for endorsements and for campaign funds, but who really care about people and not profits. And so, that kind of leads me into wondering, Councilwoman, what's going on at the local level that supports what we're talking about here today?
Thank you, Dr. Piper. And Monique, thank you so much for this documentary. This is very, very important. It's good educational material, something that's needed within our communities. Just to give you a little background about me, of course, I'm Councilmember Jackson. I grew up one of 16 children. So my mama had 16 babies, and I'm one of the oldest. I'm the third to the oldest. So I watched my mom have babies after babies after babies, and she didn't get no prenatal care. And so, babies, several times she almost had it on the couch. I know she had one on the side of the freeway, but that's what happened when you're living in poverty. When you don't have the education and don't have those individuals right around you letting you know that it's important that you get prenatal care and that there's no lack of opportunities. And so I recall coming up as, I think I was like 11 years old, my neighbor, she had a baby and she died. And so I remember saying to myself, when I get older, I'm gonna make sure, and I get pregnant, I'm gonna get prenatal care. I'm gonna go to the doctor. I'm gonna make sure that my baby don't die, I don't die, that we get out of the situation okay. And so fast forward, as older, I had 2 kids. My first child was a okay pregnancy. They had to induce the labor, my labor. But the second baby, I developed toxemia. Into 4 months, I was, high blood pressure, and I had an Asian doctor. Nothing against, Asian doctors, but he said that you was gonna be okay. And I gained almost 50-some pounds by the time my pregnancy was to the end. And it was a I actually literally heard one of the ladies say she thought she was gonna die. I thought I was gonna die. Because I wasn't dilating. They wanted to do emergency C-section while I was, I'm having the contractions. His heart rate is dropping. My blood pressure is shooting up. But eventually a nurse came, and she said, this baby's ready to come out. And she stuck a monitor and the baby popped out in front of everybody. It was like a lot of people in the room. But I'm saying that to say education, but most importantly, I was on Medicaid. And so how we as community help ourselves, and what I'm doing as a council member, I'm addressing poverty. We can talk about all these different resources and things that, clinics is good, but we have to address poverty within our neighborhoods. In my district, we have approximately 38% of the households are making under $25,000 a year. So, these folks don't have insurance. This is families of 4 or 5. You cannot sustain a family on that. And so what I'm doing is I have rolled out a jobs initiative, capacity building initiative, that's focusing on getting people into some training and good paying jobs. But not only that, working with organizations within our neighborhoods that do this type of work. There's a lot of organizations in the community that work with parents, work with kids, work with maternal, around the maternal issues. And so making sure that they have the information, make sure that they have the resources, the opportunities, so that they can do what they need to do within our neighborhoods. And so, again, education is so important, and partnering with organizations like TOP. I grew up on TOP. That's my family. And I know that, you guys working with you and other organizations throughout the community that work with families is how we can tackle this issue. So, again, thank you, and this has been great.
Thank you. Dr. Burgess, we're going to kind of frame a question with some stats to you, the doctor, the different kind of, the medical doctor. Okay, so birthing justice emphasizes the importance of culturally competent care and improving maternal health outcomes. Here in Texas, just 6.3% of active physicians are Black, compared with 13.4% of the population. How do you think cultural competency training could be incorporated into the education and practice of healthcare professionals?
So the way I'll answer that is, the reality is that we just need Black doctors. That's really the answer. It's really what the answer is. And part of the reason why I said that is if you look at the film, they talk about how there were 10 Black medical schools, and it came down to 2, right? And so now actually a lot of the medical doctors who are diverse, brown, Black, are actually coming from Caribbean schools. So that's where a lot of them are being graduated from, as well as Meharry and Howard. So, we really need to have a diverse population being able to take care of our women. And then there have been statistics that have shown that when you have, a Black physician, a Black provider, person of color, that decreased maternal mortality, that that you have better birth outcomes as well. And so, being able to have a provider that listens to you early on, and even if they're a physician who may be Black or brown and you're not satisfied with that, you can find another one, especially here in the state of Texas, especially here in Houston. There's actually a huge diverse community in terms of physicians that are out there that could help to guide care. So I'm a high-risk maternal fetal medicine doctor. I'm also the medical director at Southwest Hospital of Memorial Hermann. And part of the reason why I bring that up is because you talked about early prenatal care, as well as taking care of patients who are living in poverty. So within that area of Houston, when we looked at the stats, the household income about 2/3 is about $30,000 or less, with people having about 4 to 5 people within that household. So you can imagine that that's a household or that's a community that has a lot of Medicare patients. We have a lot of patients who have late prenatal care or no prenatal care or no insurance. And so there are a lot of different ways that we can help these patients. And we do have a lot of programs and things that we work with, but a lot of it comes from like collaborating with the community, collaborating together with other, with doulas, midwives, and it has to come with the collaboration. And that's really going to be key in terms of providing the best health care.
I also think that the insurance billing needs to be looked at and addressed, because it's unfortunate that depending on who your insurance provider is, they have a sliding scale for what type of care you can get and what type of billing that they will do based on insurance. And that's something that Texas Organizing Project can definitely tackle with at the state level with the insurance department. And so I do think that if we're really going to look holistically and deal holistically with maternal health outcomes, so the Medicaid expansion for women for up to a year post-birth, the Senate Bill 12 that we're currently working on is an issue. But beyond that, we have to look at insurance, because not everyone is on Medicaid. I'm a associate professor at a university, and I have an ACA plan, because the insurance that my institution provides doesn't cover the medical needs that my daughter has. Remember, she was born at 36 weeks, so her lungs weren't fully developed, so she is asthmatic, and she had RSV as an infant, so they just don't cover it. So I'm paying out of pocket for my insurance. And so I do think that that's important.
Sorry, I wanted to answer that just because I want you to know that even though you may not have insurance, you may not have Medicaid, anyone who becomes for taken care of, period. So if they come to a Memorial Hermann Hospital, I see patients without insurance all the time. I have patients that I see postpartum up until a month later, and I don't get paid anything because I'm seeing these patients. So what ends up happening, especially within our hospital system, is that we refer out one to Legacy. Legacy is a clinic that takes all patients that have late prenatal care, they have Medicaid, they have no insurance and things like that. So if you come into the hospital and you don't have insurance, we actually set you up with one of those clinics. We start to try to get you some insurance, especially when you're pregnant, to be able to take care of your child during that time. And then we work as much as we can to get you the same amount of health care. And the important factor too is the same people who are taking care of you at that hospital are taking care of people in private insurances, at Mem City, at all the other places. So it's the same physicians that are still taking care of you. So I don't want that to be a deterrent to people saying, hey, maybe I cannot go to the physician because of lack of insurance.
Monique, we're going to come back to you for a second. We just watched your film. Curious, what are like the two things that you want us to take away that if we could memorize as a community here, what do you want us to take away from your film?
First, it's something that Ebony Marcel says, listen to Black women, right? There are Black women all throughout this film in every single level, as patients, as birth care workers, as congresswomen, as vice presidents. At every single level, listen to Black women, believe Black women, act on what they say. That's fundamental. Black women are up here. The second thing is, as the movie ends, it's really Black joy, right? Black joy is not, just a hashtag that you may see on social media. For me, it's an active tool. It's a choice. When we look at what's going on in the Black community, if there's say a thunderstorm across the region, it's a tsunami within the Black community. Black maternal health care is such an example of that. The United States ranks 23rd out of 37 developed nations. If it was just Black women, it would be 37 out of 37. Atrocious. However, 23 out of 37 is horrible for what's considered the most developed nation in this country. So this is when Black women have a rally cry, it's to the rest of the world. Black joy as a specific tool of resistance that you see in the film is, you know, we can be angry because anger happens when boundaries are crossed. But if we become bitter, we become broken, right? So joy is something that we put on to help us get through and to help us thrive. Not just survive, but to thrive, to create this world. Because I'm angry when I'm watching these statistics, but I understand that as a filmmaker, if I just show the problem and I don't show what I want to see coming from it, we stop at the level of the trauma. We stop at the problem. So Black joy became a tool for me to say, I want us to end on joy. I want to make sure you want to see this film. The women are beautiful in this film. All the people are beautiful. That's by design. You know, when I went to St. Louis, Ferguson, and met with Okunsola, the last time cameras were there was when Mike Brown was killed. And I wanted to say, you know, we literally have life coming up from the ashes here. You see water when you come into St. Louis, right? The birth canal. So I wanted to show the beauty. I hadn't seen the beauty of Ferguson. And I was like, this is a beautiful community. So everything for me is about beauty, birthing, joy, justice.
That's right. I mean, I like drop the mic. But I'm not going to drop the mic because guess what? You ran to organizing. And give it up for everybody. Give it up for Monique, Dr. Doshi, Councilwoman, Dr. Burgess. Oh, yeah. Oh, hold on.
So I didn't want to leave without making sure that I give some pointers because it's very important. You know, as we were talking about, you know, Black women, we have power. You know, the most important thing is that you should not feel powerless when you're having a child. You do have power, right? So the first thing, just in terms of pointers, they talked a lot about preeclampsia. They talked about how it's the #1 killer during pregnancy. If you know a pregnant woman, if you know anyone's being pregnant around you, buy them a cuff. Buy them a blood pressure cuff. They can use it in the antepartum period. They could use it in their postpartum period. So that's something that's very important. After they deliver, sometimes the reason why preeclampsia is missed is not because the doctor, you know, discharged you too early. Sometimes it just develops 6 to 12 days after. So you're not going to be in the hospital for 12 days after you've given birth, right? So if you take your blood pressure after you've given birth and you continue to see it, if your blood pressure is high, if you have a headache that's not going away, don't listen to anybody, you know, go straight to the hospital. You know, don't ignore it. There was a woman who we had recently. She died because she had a headache for 2 weeks. 2 weeks straight before she came to the hospital. And then by that time, you know, she had no blood flow to her brain. So these are things that are very important. And, you know, like I said, I want us to collaborate between the doulas and the midwives, and that's very important. But high-risk pregnancy usually means like if you have diabetes or if you've had chronic hypertension, if you've had a previous cesarean section, those are things that may make you high risk. So you can see a doctor like myself, a high-risk doctor. We can plan before getting pregnant on what you can do. And then, you know, if you are seeing a doula and a midwife, you can still work in conjunction with that physician when you have those high-risk conditions as well. So just wanted to make sure everyone knows those things as well.